Going back to my roots a little bit, I want to touch on my favorite time and money sink in this hobby, apart from waiting for group buys, and that's Frankenswitching. It can be quite daunting, considering the huge list of manufacturers, molds, materials, and switches out there, so this is more going to be geared towards those who are trying to get their feet wet, and more of a what to look out for the most part. This is a gross oversimplification and not all-encompassing by any means because I value my sanity. And this video actually has a partner, and it's Switch Oddities. They did provide me a good number of these switches, and if you're someone who's more of like a collector in this space and you're looking for a particular rare switch, they have like over 3,000 in stock, so check them out. So what is Frankenswitching? As the name implies, it's harvesting parts from other switches to create a new one, like this ungodly creation. There are a lot of ways you can go about crafting your own switch, whether you're chasing a particular sound, visual aesthetic, or just wanting to experiment in general. And this video will be broken down into 3 sections that I'll have down below in the timestamp. I'm going to start out by drawing a diagram that I hope can visualize the process. I apologize in advance, my handwriting is atrocious. So it kind of looks like a clusterfuck, but this is the general school of thought I follow, so I'll try to break it down. So this first segment is pretty self-explanatory and basically just helps to narrow down the switches to potentially shop for. And the second, you essentially have 3 styles to choose from. You have the 2-latch system, which I don't really think anyone uses, and the 4-latch system. The 4 is also broken out depending if the leaf is what I'm called supported in the housing, and here are some manufacturers associated with each of them. So once you've chosen your bottom housing, next would be the top housing. And this is where shit gets weird. Let's say we chose a SP Star bottom housing. The solid green safe bet line is to choose a top from the same family of manufacturers like Cherry, for instance. However, you could use a top housing from Texi, but you potentially run into the issue where the leaf is moving in a hot swap build and just leaves the switch useless. For the red dotted line, if you're really fucking determined to get your Nixie Cherry tops to fit your diamond polished Zaku bottoms, you can clip and Dremel out the material to get it to fit. You'll also notice this little asterisk right next to Mayrun, because some of their tops just aren't universal. My blueberry chiffon tops won't fit this Kale Santa bottom, and that's because there's this little bit of material on the chiffon top that interferes. So I would say, safe bet, pick a Texi top, you'll be perfectly fine. And looping back over, we get to stems. Essentially, does size matter? And how sharp of a tactile action do you want? You have options for a traditional like 12.3mm all the way to like the chungus 13.9mm stems. And for tactiles, the shape of the bump on the stem legs will dictate how it'll feel. I am by no means a credible source in this field, so your guess is as good as mine. And finally, springs. There's a crap ton of them in terms of different weight and types. I don't even know all of them. Just pick whatever you like, or if you wanted to save money, just use the springs from one of the harvested switches. I'm going to try to keep this section as humanly short as possible. There are countless blends of materials to choose from, and I wish I could say all the materials are made equal. A JWK nylon bottom from one switch might be higher or lower pitched than another JWK bottom of that same material. So, overgeneralizing, and please take this with a grain of salt. I'm going to try to list out the more common materials in terms of higher pitched to lowest pitch. Just kind of use it as a general roadmap. Your mileage will definitely vary on this. This graph can also apply to stems and top housings as well, so if you wanted to make like a lower pitched bottom out with a higher pitched top out and an overall fuller sounding switch, you can choose an unwiped bottom, PC top, and a palm stem. Caveats. These are some of the things I've come across, and I just want to bring them to your attention. Be careful choosing the same material for multiple parts. You might have heard of stick slip before, and that's exactly what this is. Essentially, the switch is binding to itself because of the similar material, so if you want to, your top and bottom can be the same, but just pick a different one for your stem. Some switches also have an extended bottom post, so your overall travel will be a little bit longer unless you picked a stem length to accompany it. And sometimes stems just don't want to play well with other housings. Like one instance I remember is the Texi Ice Candy stems didn't want to fit my cherry tops, and my KTT chalk switches didn't want to fit any other bottom housings to get stuck. And that's kind of the risk that you run with this kind of thing. Springs also play a factor in terms of sound test. If you decide to go with a slightly lighter spring, there's a good chance that the overall acoustics are going to be higher pitched and in some instances clackier. Again, same is true for the inverse. The heavier you go, the deeper it's going to sound, for the most part. And finally, be prepared to have a lot of switch parts. Don't feel like you have to leave them to collect dust in your closet like I have. They can be inspiration for switches down the line, or you can always just resell them to, recoup some of your cost. I know this video is a lot to digest, as this branch of the keyboard hobby is an entire rabbit hole in and of itself, and I get some people are asking, oh, Tofu, why would I go through all this effort when I can probably buy a switch that has the material and spring rate that I want? And even then, I'm not going to see my switches. And to that, that's entirely fair. It's totally not unreasonable to think that Frankenswitching is an entire waste of time and money, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to what you want your keyboard to represent. For me, I'm just doubling down on themed boards. I want my switches to match my keycaps, to match my board, and also have a particular sound profile to boot. And I get that's not for everyone, but if you're looking to take the dive into making your custom keyboard a little more personalized and tailored for you, I hope at least this video provides you the framework for doing so. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Take care and have a good one.